أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds. Assalamu alaikum. And we welcome our friends in South Africa, the United States, and around the world to this week's edition of A Conversation with El-Hajj Mauri Salah Khan. I'm pleased to be your host, coming to you once again through the Salam Media platform out of Johannesburg, South Africa. Salam Media is an online portal for humanitarian journalism. We don't just report the news. We advise you on what you can do about it. Today's topic for discussion is the challenges facing America. The challenges facing America, and they are many. Muslim American perspectives. We want to open today's broadcast with a piece of video. Before I introduce our guests, we want to open with a piece of video that is now passé because the die has already been set. This video was on Israel's threat to attack the Islamic Republic of Iran. Those of us who have been paying attention to the media, we know that attack has already been made, and there's been a response from Iran, and there's just a lot of drama taking place right now in the international community. Reportedly, at least 200 Israeli fighter jets hit over 100 targets in Iran. And I was reminded, with everything that was being said and done around these attacks, leading up to the attacks and then around the attacks themselves, I was reminded of that thought-provoking book that was written many years ago by one of the recently retired most prominent U.S. senators to sit in the U.S. Senate, and that is none other than J. William Fulbright, the man for whom the Fulbright Scholarship is named. Senator Fulbright chaired one of the most powerful committees in the U.S. Congress, the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. And no doubt it was from this perch, in retrospect, he was motivated to write a thought-provoking memoir, so to speak, a political memoir, and entitle it The Arrogance of Power. I thought about that book. I thought about the writings, the issues that Senator Fulbright raised in that again, highly thought-provoking book. It's a book that I recommend folk read because it is something that will help us today understand much of what we're seeing, put into proper perspective much of what we're seeing today, especially with the administration that is now in place and all that this administration is doing. He spoke about the two Americas. In this book, Senator Fulbright, he described the two Americas. The America that we promote to the world and the America that we project upon the world. And this is very germane, again, to this discussion that we're going to have today on the challenges facing America. Now, with that being said, Brother Sadiq, let's see that first piece of video.
Things are heating up in the Middle East, and while the mainstream media keeps looping the same sound bites, something major is unfolding behind closed doors. Yesterday, Benjamin Netanyahu personally called Donald Trump. He urged him to end negotiations with Iran and join Israel in going to war. Trump refused. According to Israel outlet Haaretz, Netanyahu wants the U.S. to back an immediate strike on Iran's nuclear facilities, but Trump reportedly told him not now. He refused to give the green light and told Netanyahu to stop fueling public discussion about a possible attack. Now let's zoom out for a second. If Israel moves on Iran alone and the U.S. holds back, experts say Israel would last maybe 2 weeks before the region spirals out of control. And whether we back them or not, the world will still see America as guilty by association, which means the U.S. might get pulled into the fight either way. That's one front. Then we've got Ukraine, where speculation is growing that Putin could seize this very moment if global attention is locked on the Middle East and strike with overwhelming force to end the war on his terms. No negotiations, just brute resolution. And that would open a second front. And then there's a third, the unrest growing inside America itself, social division and political tension that you see on TV. Now think about it. That's 3 fronts: Middle East, Ukraine, home soil. And you still think this is about one conflict? The world is being stretched thin, and the pressure points are no accident. There are whispers about buffer zones as well, like Poland becoming flashpoints, with provocations potentially pushed by Western interests. I won't speculate, but I will say this. The pieces are moving fast, and it's all happening at once. For Trump or any leader, this isn't a battlefield. It's a minefield where every step has global consequences. We're staring down a moment in history where any misstep could ignite something none of us even want. But here's the hopeful part. The world has pulled back from the edge before. What it takes now is leadership that sees the whole picture, not just the next headline. Let's push our leaders for focus on a resolution, not on escalation.
What a thought-provoking message. And as I said, you know, the heart of this message is kind of passé now, because Israel has attacked Iran. Iran has responded. And for the record, it's been reported that the Trump administration did have foreknowledge of the attack. And this, of course, makes the U.S. government complicit. With that being said, we want to take our first commercial break, and then we will introduce our brothers for this very important discussion on the other side, inshallah.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories for all makes and models of motor cars, LDVs, bakkies, trucks, and earth-moving equipment. We deliver on time, every time. Please contact us via WhatsApp on 014-592-0925 or call 014-592-0925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name, Valley's Motor Spares.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying, or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
They say breakfast is the most important meal of the day, yet many children go to school hungry because of poverty. Penny Appeal South Africa's Breakfast Club aims to get a warm, hearty meal to underprivileged children so they can spend their day prospering in their schoolwork. Help feed a needy learner for only 5 Rand a day, or 150 Rand a month. Or visit our website www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573 to find out how you can donate. Penny Appeal South Africa. Small change, big difference.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
Welcome back. Today's hot topic for discussion is the challenges facing America, Muslim American perspectives. Now, we want to begin the conversation with our guests. Let's bring them on, Brother Sadiq. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. We have there were two guests that I knew we were going to be able to have. They were able to confirm. There were two others that were possibilities. Alhamdulillah, I see that we have one of the two with us. Imam Yusuf Rios is with us, Amir Abdul Malik Ali, and my good brother Muhammad Bashir, Ibn Bashir, alhamdulillah. Let's jump right in, my brothers. What are your opening thoughts on this topic, the challenges facing America? What is your perspective on these challenges? Let's begin with you, brother, Imam Rios. Let's start with you.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I thank all of you brothers. Every time we come together, it lightens my heart. And I want to say that I love you for the sake of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala.
We love you back, bro.
You know, the opening video, I think, highlights kind of where I'm at. Understanding the situation and the context that we're in becomes one of the major challenges. And I think that the mapping of where things are at least as it was presented in that video, it really puts, you know, I really don't have words for it because it's so surreal where we're at the moment. Mm-hmm. And where that, you know, in terms of the level of escalation, and anybody who studies military history knows that when Hitler played that card of opening up multiple fronts and his imperialist ambition, what came next was just like global war and the collapse of that project. I think that where, you know, as a country, was going on internally and was going on externally, it's very serious. You know, the level of escalation that this thing is at. And the ramifications are not just going to be felt here if this thing goes south, which inshallah it doesn't go south. Maybe there's some de-escalation, but maybe I'm, you know, in the clouds somewhere. But the ramifications are going to be global. And something that has to be said, which I've been really struggling with, the Muslims right now, not all Muslims, but a significant amount of Muslims have bought into the right-wing rhetoric. And so when they look at what's going on internally in the country, they want to align completely with where the right is at. And when we talk about what's going on globally, there's a certain degree of indifference and impotency. And I don't want to take more of the conversation up, but I just want to say that there's a lot of disorientation, and this stage really needs leadership. It really needs emotional, spiritual, and thought leadership. This is a stage that can't afford for there to be a vacuum, right? If there's no guidance, things are going to become extremely problematic for the Muslims. We see where things are at right now with this administration. You know, we have 4 years. You know, we have 4 years on this administration. We see where things are at. The vote did not get us out of Palestine. It did not get us out of war, and it actually brought us closer to civil war.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Your thoughts, Amir Abdul Malik Ali.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. It's an honor and a privilege to be with the brothers. America's falling as an empire. It's coming down. And the reason why some of us wanted, many of us don't vote, but we didn't mind Trump getting in because Trump is going to destroy the empire. Just like Netanyahu was destroying the apartheid state, Trump is destroying the empire. There's an ayat in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about a group of people who he gives an honor to. Amarna mutrafiha. He gives an honor to the mutrafin. He gives the honor to the corrupt rich, because the corrupt rich, of course, are engaging in behavior that are beyond the boundaries set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So therefore, there's going to be much corruption, much injustice, and so on and so forth. The American people are slowly finding out that businessmen are not qualified to run a country. All businessmen care about is money. And so because of their greed, they're allowing this gap between the rich and the poor to get wider and wider, right? And so you have a situation where people have to work 2 and 3 jobs, full-time jobs, just to make ends meet, right? Just to get their heads a little bit above water, right? People can't live like this, right? Almost half of the American people are in or near poverty. It's America, right? Rich America. So you have a situation where the Mutrafin, because of their greed, is destroying the country. It's destroying the society. They don't care when they take their jobs to other places and leaving unemployment in its wake. They don't care about these things. All they care about is money and making more money. More is not enough is their creed. And so as a result of them not being stopped, the Prophet peace be upon him talked about how when people do these things, these corrupt things, if they're not stopped, then there's going to be a punishment that hits everybody, right? So first and foremost is the Mutrafin, it's the corrupt rich. And then secondly, of course, when Allah talks about the oppressors will get hit, what these oppressors are thinking about is that what's going to bring this black resistance. What's going to bring down these oppressors is white supremacy. Because white supremacists don't care about the Constitution. White supremacists don't care about so-called democracy, right? And so that will be another thing that causes the destruction of the American empire. And so we have to, yes, there has to be leadership. I'll come to a close. There's got to be proper leadership, and there's got to be proper followership, right? There's got to be the both, because there's some very confusing things. And lastly, Brother Imam is right that there are some Muslims who are going for the right-wing rhetoric. And one of the reasons why is because some of the right wing have taken proper positions on LBGT, on when the whole vax thing came out and so on and so forth, that type of thing. There are certain positions they're taking the correct positions on. But just because they're taking correct positions on certain things doesn't mean that they are our allies. Even Shaitan spoke the truth when he talked to a companion about the power of Ayatul Kursi. He was speaking the truth, but Shaitan is a liar. So even though he was speaking the truth, that doesn't mean Shaitan is our ally. So it's a time where it's very confusing. So yes, I think the leadership factor is extremely, extremely important. I'll stop there, inshallah.
Okay, thank you, my brother. Let's hear from you, Brother Muhammad Bashir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Always a pleasure to see you, brothers. I follow both of you on social media. I love your commentary, etc. I do my best to stay out of your lane, inshallah. But please stay in your lane. Keep your lane going. You're doing, I refer people to you all the time just to listen, to learn, and to grow. I saw the video. When it first came out. And I now know, having followed Black Agenda Report and things along that are going on in America and other areas that are reporting on what's going on between Iran and the state of Israel, that Iran has struck back. And they haven't struck back just once. They haven't struck back twice. Up till now, they've struck back 3 times. And now the Israelis are complaining, the Israeli citizens are complaining that they are now becoming Gaza. The door has been opened for the strike back. And again, we have to recognize who Netanyahu is historically and the place of the United States in this particular conflict. Netanyahu represents to European / racist white supremacist America, which is basically Christian nationalism, the pushing of this ideology that they invented of a rapture. He wants to push that particular agenda because he believes that's the only way they can survive, is to push this and to get white America on the side of this rapture, this eventual confrontation that will bring Jesus Christ back. So he's there, for lack of a better way, they're pit bull, they're dogs for sheep. And so him pushing that is what he's pushing on to Donald Trump. And he knows that Donald Trump's constituents, his chief of staff, his heads of state, these incompetents, are all Christian nationalists, and they want this war with Iran, and they want this war with Muslims so that they can hasten on the return of Jesus Christ. They really believe that in their heart of hearts. This confrontation now is the use of Netanyahu of the fact that he knows he's in desperate situation. He knows that Donald Trump had designs on Gaza as a resort. So that's why he can push Donald Trump. This is what's going on behind the scenes. This is why he called Donald Trump. Like, if we lose this here, you lose Gaza. And so you can almost anticipate what Donald Trump's thought process is. I'm about ready to lose this resort that I've allowed them to wipe out, that Biden allowed them to wipe out, to eliminate the people there, to eliminate the ethnic cleansing because they struck Iran. So he's caught in the quagmire, and he's no leader. That's like no doubt about it. He is no leader, no visionary. So then therefore he has to act as Amir Abdul-Malik has indicated, based on an economic interest alone. And that's where I think we are as it relates to that particular thing. I don't want to see Israel burn. I didn't want to see Palestine burn. But I think the inevitable conflict here that's behind the scenes is Christian nationalism attempt to push internationally the return of Jesus Christ as they understand it's supposed to happen. Unfortunately, they better recognize, they better read their own books and see what Jesus Christ is supposed to say when he comes back. And the first thing is he's going to say is, I don't know any of you fools. Get out of my way. I don't know any of you. So, and again, when you couple that with racism, white supremacy, and that blind narrative that they have, they miss the forest for the trees along with
I thank all three of you brothers for those opening remarks. Getting back to you, Imam Yusuf, I saw a post of yours a couple of days ago where you stated, quote, "As Muslims, we have a task to teach others what brotherhood is. Cultural identity is deficient to teach true brotherhood." And of course, that observation that you made resonated with me on a very profound level. And there's another brother of ours by the name of Naji Ali from out in Southern California. I know that Amir Abdul-Malik, you know this brother. Naji Ali. He's very active brother in Southern California. He recently wrote a post, and I'm just going to quote just part of it, the first part and the final part. He said, "Dear Black people, please stop saying to me, this isn't our fight. Just say it's not your fight." And then he ends by saying, it's a lengthy post. He ends by saying, "Project Islamic Hope, helping oppressed people everywhere, is a movement not just for Black people, but for those who need help the most. If you don't want to get involved in this fight to end ICE raids, that's your choice. You should fight for issues that you are passionate about. I will continue to do what my mentors taught me. Be a warrior for social justice, for humanity." And the mentors that he was referring to was Imam Warthaddin Muhammad and Jesse Jackson, Reverend Jesse Jackson. That post of Brother Naji Ali's resonated with me as much as the post that you issued, Imam Yusuf, resonated with me. And it reminded me of something that that really troubled me when I saw it. There are Black and brown tribal members who are taking the wrong position on this, who are aligning themselves up with that Republican cult led by Trump. In fact, one brother who's associated with a documentary on Malcolm X, was posting, "This ain't our fight." Subhanallah. And of course, in a brotherly way, I challenged him on it. A couple of others challenged him on it, but I was surprised. And in fact, he got so many challenges that he either did one of two things. He either deleted that post or he unfriended me. Or he may have done both. Because he started getting some heat, not just from me, but from others, and from me in a brotherly way. But I was surprised. I mean, this is a brother associated with Malcolm. And, to take a position, this ain't our fight, and echoing what the Trump administration has been trying to put forward, that, these are people who are in the streets rioting, X, Y, subhanAllah. It was very disappointing for me. So, Brother Imam Yusuf, you wrote this post. What was going on inside your heart and mind when you posted that, brother? I'd like for you to just expound a bit more.
The reality is, I think that we need to talk openly to a certain extent.
Yes.
I understand the sentiment. And the sentiment, in part, is coming from a space within the Black community that's saying we've been betrayed many times. Is not, the love is not mutual, right? And so that's a very real reality. The problem is, in revolutionary thinking, we have, and I hate to use the term masses, but we have to understand that everybody is not at a stage of revolutionary consciousness.
That's right.
So when we start judging our position by where the masses are at, that are not at the stage of revolutionary consciousness, then we're in a problem. But to identify that there's a problem, that there's a lack of mutuality, and there's a lack of reciprocity, and there's been betrayal, that needs to be in place. I think that that's important, that the Black community has been on the vanguard front, and there has not been an appreciation of that at times. And we have sold out at times, in terms of where we should have been at, in terms of the struggle overall for liberation. But what's scary is to just even say, well, you know what? We're no longer on that front at all. We're going to take the right wing approach, and this is what's good for our people. But when you look, it's not bringing results either. It's not like those positions that have been taken by ADOS or FBA or others that are in that line of thinking right now. It's not like they're bringing upliftment to the Black community, right? That's the scary part. As far as the Latino community is concerned, it's true. Like, there's been some issues on the ground that have led up to this, but also some people are judging where the street is at. They're making like gang activity the measurement for how Black and brown relationships should be. And what's more problematic is when we as Muslims, we're not recognizing that we have work to do in terms of building our community. We have a responsibility in terms of building a sense of consciousness, cultivating it, and then actualizing, things on the ground to solidify our relationships to each other. So it's like Islam is no longer in the picture at this point, in terms of as a measurement of judgment on how we deal with these issues. And then our legacy that we have inherited from our elders that give us a sense of revolutionary orientation to be able to pursue justice, that's not even being referred to anymore. We're not building on it. So that's why I was talking about leadership, and then we have the problem that, and I get burnt on this on a regular basis. The immigrant community has bought into the right wing rhetoric. So you know, we have a fractured brotherhood on so many fronts.
Yeah. Amir. Yarely.
I think we're out of shape, if you will. That is to say, we haven't been under the influence of true leadership in a long time. And so we're making statements that those leaders who we hold so dear to our hearts would have never made. You know what I'm saying? Okay, if we deal just on the Islamic tip, as Brother Najee Ali said, we have to help all oppressed people, all oppressed people. If we dealing on the tip of the Black liberation struggle, there's a certain, like, we're role models. Like in one of those demonstrations in LA, they were chanting "all power to the people." Where they get that from? You know what I'm saying? So we're role models, and so we're not allowed to say, well, that's not our fight. We don't. No, whenever someone is being oppressed, we have to be standard bearers for justice. Whether we're Muslim, whether we Black folks, we got to be standard bearers for justice. And lastly, you know, I've been hearing too. Well, they voted for Trump. They voted for him, and you know, and we told them not to vote for Trump, and now they did. Now here's what they got. That's what they get. Okay. Well, let's look at this. Let's look at these data. How did they vote during Obama? When Uncle Tom Obama ran for the first time, how did Latinos vote? They went with Obama. They went with Black folks, and Obama became the deporter in chief. He deported more Latino brothers and sisters than the three previous presidents combined. Did Black folks get on Obama about that? No. Did they apologize to Latino brothers and sisters about that? No. Maybe Latino brothers and sisters were saying, well, look here, last time we went with the first Black president, he deported more of us than any other president. Maybe we should try something else. Now, yeah, we disagree with who they tried, but you can't come like that. That's not fair. They tried Obama. They was with us on Obama, and he deported them. Like no other presidents. And so we got to be really careful how we deal with this. So, you know, we got to get back to how we were taught. No, we got to stand with them. Now, if there's some knuckleheads from their side or our side, okay, those knuckleheads don't represent us. They don't represent the best of the struggle and the best of the movement. And so lastly, I think it's significant that, you know, you have so many Black folks coming to Islam and you have so many Latinos coming to Islam. We got to do something with that. We have to do something with that.
Brother Muhammad, your thoughts on this?
Both commentaries were heavy, heavier than the conversation that we're willing to have right now. And I'll tell you why. The first thing is that I think we need to come to a real, what the old Christians used to say, you have to come to Jesus moment. We need to have that in the Muslim community. We are the only community, and I'm saying this as a challenge to any other community to produce it. We are the only community that has within its doctrine that we have to stand for truth, no matter who it's for or who it's against, even if it's against ourselves. We have that as a mandate in Islam. So as a Muslim, when someone is being oppressed, as the brother said, we have an obligation to stand for justice, to stand for truth. Second part about it is, without going into their lanes, I'll stay in my lane. When someone tells you it's not your struggle and you're in America and you're an African American, all you have to do is reflect that from 1661 till today, Black America has been in the lead for the ending of oppression or the challenge to white supremacy. From 1661, they have been in the lead. What will happen, because Black people have always been treated as second-class citizens, even beat down during every generation, but standing up and fighting back, so much so that it was Black soldiers who turned the tide of the Civil War, even though they tried to give credit to Abraham Lincoln and the Emancipation Proclamation, which he did not want to sign. It was Black soldiers who turned the tide on that. It was Black soldiers who opened up the West. It was Black soldiers who gave us Juneteenth. It was Black intellects that gave us the Civil Rights Movement. Without the Civil Rights Movement, you don't have your Voting Rights Act. You don't have your Civil Rights Act of 64. You don't have your Fair Housing Act. It was Black people who lead. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because what happens if this fight that's going on for justice happens and you're not in it? What would every community say to you then? What argument would you have for purposes of saying, all right, now the next thing is coming along, join me or participate in this? If you said that your mandate was to stand for justice, It's about justice. Regardless of what's happening to the immigrant community, it is about justice. The immigrant community is being denied the First Amendment, the right to peaceful protest, the right to freedom of speech. That means that particular aspect of the Constitution is being taken away, and they're using immigrants to do that. The immigrant community is being unlawfully detained. That means they are taking away the right to the Fourth Amendment, which says that you are to be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. And they're using the immigrant community to wipe out that aspect of the Fourth Amendment. The immigrant community, as demonstrated by the people who were snatched up and sent to El Salvador, now have been ordered to be brought back without having the right to counsel, sent to New Orleans without the right to counsel, are being denied the Fifth Amendment and the Sixth Amendment, fundamental due process and the right to have counsel. That is your Constitution. And this is the, and frankly, if you're Black and in America, you are not a citizen of America, except that the Constitution gave you citizenship in 1783 with the 14th Amendment. Now I'm taking you through your history and how it is that they are about ready to eliminate your citizenship using the immigrant argument. And you're saying you want to stand on the sidelines because you don't see the forest for the trees. We haven't gotten to the 10th Amendment, which was going on in California or in San Antonio or in Chicago, where they are calling out the National Guard, where the president called out the National Guard on behalf of California with no right to do it under the Constitution because the state sovereignty is listed in the 10th Amendment to the United States Constitution. So if you eliminate that, you have eliminated another aspect of the Constitution. Now, I've only gone through 5 amendments out of 10.
All right.
I haven't even gotten to really explaining what due process means when a judge orders you to, that says you have an injunction and you acted illegally, and you say, we're not going to enforce that. We're not bringing this guy back. We are not going to abide by a court order. Fundamental due process, your Fifth Amendment right to due process. And now let's get to the Reconstruction Amendments. The 14th Amendment of birthright citizenship, that if you were born on this soil, you are a citizen. You are a citizen of the United States. So what do you do when you have a parent and you're 5 and your parent is here what they want to call illegally? The argument is you give it to the parent. You take the parent, kick them out the country. What do you do with the child? You have to send the child someplace they've never been. You're going to do that to U.S. citizens. Well, if we get rid of birthright citizenship in the 14th Amendment for immigrants, you can do it for any other citizen, especially when you're considering you're not checking these people to determine whether or not they do have their credentials. You are moving them without determining their credentials, without determining whether or not a judge or a justice demonstrates that you have the proof to prove the case, violating due process. If we're not in that particular fight, if we don't understand the nature of the overall picture, and we're just pissed off because somebody didn't vote for Kamala Harris when we told them that they should, or that we didn't vote for the third party, the Green Party, when we should have told them what the strategy was as what you use a third party for. If they're pissed off, I did a show Thursday night on my show, The Raw Law Project, shameless plug, right? I did all that, and the title of the show was, if you're not involved in this today, that what's going on the streets today with this government today, you're either, as Fanon said, or it was Frederick Douglass one, every spectator is either a coward or a traitor.
Okay. And on that note, I'm glad that you went there, brother, with your commentary, because that raises an opportunity for me to introduce another very important piece of video that I wanted to share. It's a video that reflects the importance of people power. Let's see that video, Brother Sadiq. Did my brother leave his controls? Let me text my brother while we have a piece of video, and that video is it's actually an MSNBC report on the demonstrations that have been taking place north, south, east, and west.
I already know where you're going with that. You're talking about the Rachel Maddow video, right?
Yeah, Rachel Maddow, man, and the successes that have come about as a result of that. Brother Sadiq, whenever, oh my goodness, man.
This time last week here on this show, we brought you the story of a high school junior, an honor student, a standout volleyball player, the drummer in the high school band. He goes to Milford High School in Massachusetts. His name is Marcelo. And we brought you the story of the most unusual graduation day at Milford High last weekend when the kids graduated. They went through the graduation ceremony, and then they all marched with their families and with all the teachers and all the rest of the kids from school. They all marched down to Milford Town Hall to protest for Marcelo because Trump's immigration agents had stopped him while he was driving to volleyball practice with his high school teammates. They had pulled him over. They arrested him, and the whole dang town of Milford, Massachusetts turned out to defend him, to stand up for him, and to try to get him out. We brought you that story this time last week. And tonight, exactly 1 week later, we can show you these images of his homecoming, because Marcelo has been freed, returned to his family and to his community. They, as a community, as a town, as a school, challenged his arrest. When his case was being heard, the whole town came to the courthouse, including dozens of teenagers from Milford High and the members of the volleyball teams at the school. They all wore T-shirts with his number 10, on the back. When he was released, you could see two Democratic members of Congress who were there with him. That's Jake Auchincloss on the left and Seth Moulton on the right. After Marcelo was freed, those two members of Congress used their power as members of Congress to demand that they be allowed entry into the two ICE facilities in Massachusetts where the Trump administration has been locking people up, including this high school junior, this volleyball playing kid. Under federal law, members of Congress are allowed to inspect any ICE immigration holding facility with no advance notice. And frankly, because the town of Milford, Massachusetts reared up on its hind legs and roared to defend this kid, these members of Congress who represent that part of that state were moved to go inspect those facilities with the power vested in them under U.S. statute. This time last week, we also brought you the story of Carol, a waitress in Kennett, Missouri, which is a small town, a Trump-supporting town in Missouri, where Carol was an integral part of the community. 3 kids in local schools. She's an active member of the local Catholic Church. She's a much-loved waitress at John's Waffle and Pancake House. Trump's immigration agents took Carol, and the town rose up to try to get her back. The staff at John's all started wearing Bring Carol Home T-shirts. They put Bring Carol Home petitions on every table at the restaurant where she had worked. The Catholic church that she attended held prayer services for her, and they brought meals to her family. The town held a Carol Day fundraiser for her and to fund efforts to advocate to bring her home. They raised nearly $20,000 for her in a single day. We brought you that story this time last week, and tonight, 1 week later, we can show you these images of Carol's homecoming because she has been released. She has been brought home. Neighbors crowded into the parking lot of that pancake house where she worked to welcome her back the night that they got her out, to say they would protect her and protect her family. We've also brought you the story of a little 4-year-old girl in Bakersfield, California. She is not only obviously the cutest little girl in the world, she is a huge medical success story. She was born with a rare condition that means basically that she can't take in any nutrients on her own. She had her first surgery when she was only 4 days old. She had 7 more surgeries by the time she was 2. Because of this rare illness she was born with, she was starving. She was not going to survive her infancy with this condition. But under the Biden administration, on a medical humanitarian visa, this little girl was brought to California, to a children's hospital in San Diego, and then to the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles. And it's been a complete success. She is now thriving. You see how she's wearing that little backpack? They've devised this system that they've built into a backpack where she receives intravenous nutrition 14 hours a day through this little backpack that she wears. And then every 6 weeks, she needs to go to the Children's Hospital for more extensive treatment. But this system together is working. She's alive. She's thriving. She's great. President Donald Trump ordered her deported to Mexico. Her doctor said if that happened, that would, by necessity, stop her treatment. They said she would be dead within days. Trump administration insisted she and her family must be deported. They gave her 7 days to leave. The Los Angeles Times and other media outlets reported on this story. There was, as you might expect, an outcry and protest. California's Democratic U.S. senators got involved. Adam Schiff and Alex Padilla both got involved. And in response to that outcry, you know what happened? The Trump administration gave up. That little girl will be allowed to stay with her family. They're going effectively to let her live. This is footage from local news from local Channel 4 in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and from News from the States, their print coverage of people picketing peacefully outside the immigration facility in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And you see the signs there, the repeated signs that all say, "Keep Antonio here." Antonio is a local man with 3 kids. He's lived locally in the Albuquerque area for more than 20 years. He was told suddenly that he needed to appear at the local immigration office for a sudden meeting. By this point, of course, people know exactly what that means, right? Albuquerque residents knew what it was going to mean for him. They turned out in force to defend him, to picket, to basically say, don't you dare take him away. Immigration officials held the man inside for 3 hours, but then they let him go. They didn't try to take him. He walked out. He was embraced and cheered by the local people who had turned out to protest for him. So what is the most important story in our news right now? I mean, there is clearly, I think if we're being honest, there's really no question what the United States is up against right now. I mean, the intentions of this president are not a mystery. There's no suspense. There's no ambiguity, right? We know exactly who he is. We know exactly what he wants to do to the country. The real mystery is not him. We know him. We know what he wants and what he's trying to do. The real mystery is, will he succeed? Will he get what he wants? And the answer to that will not be found by looking at him or by watching his actions. The answer to that question will come from the people of this country. The most important story of our time is this one. What is this country going to allow him to do? This is an attempted authoritarian overthrow of the United States Constitution and the U.S. government, the attempted imposition of a dictatorial regime. That is clear. That is unambiguous. I think it is unquestioned. I think there are very few people on any side of American politics who would contend with that. The question is whether it will work. And the way we will find out whether or not it's going to work is not going to be something that happens in the White House. It's going to be something that happens in the streets and in the courts and in the states and in Congress and in every other place that people are trying to say no. The strength of the movement against him is what will determine our fate as a country. What we are seeing over and over again is that protesting against him works, that he wants to seem strong, but he is not that strong. Organizing against him works. Fighting him in court works. Pushing back works. Protesting in the streets works. And so Marcelo is free in Milford, Massachusetts. And Carol is free in Missouri. And the 4-year-old girl in Bakersfield, California is free and alive. And in Albuquerque, the movement to keep Antonio here means that Antonio is still here. And none of these things are instant, right? And they don't always work. But pushback is the only thing that ever does work.
That's right. I could not agree more with Rachel Maddow. That is a refreshing piece of news commentary she delivered. Let me also say this. Trump recently gave a directive that immigrants with TPS, that's temporary protective status, from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela, have to leave the U.S. He just recently gave that order. They have to leave the U.S. But the first thought that came to mind for me was that ICE isn't chasing white European illegals out of the country, which, again, it shows what this administration is really all about. There's another piece of video, is very short, that I want us to see. We showed it last week. We want to show it again, because it taps into and emphasizes the importance of people power. This is Chief Manla Mandela, the grandson of Nelson Mandela. A few days ago, he was calling for a mass demonstration, a mass mobilization that took place today. That's, in fact, it's probably may still be going on right now in South Africa. If that's where it is it South Africa? Let's see that piece of video, Brother Sadiq.
My dear comrades and friends, We are 1 week away from the global march to Gaza. We call on all of you in the International Solidarity Movement to join us on the 12th of June in Cairo, Egypt, as we prepare to march to Rafah on the 15th of June. We are counting on all of you, those comrades in Sweden, in Switzerland, in France, in the UK, in Ireland, right across the Euro-Palestine movement. We call on you to come in your numbers and join the global march to Gaza. We call on USPCN, the United States Palestinian Community Network, to ensure that you mobilize right across the United States of America and join the global march to Gaza. We are calling on all solidarity movements in South Africa and across the SADC region and the African continent to mobilize right across our continent and ensure that all those that are in solidarity with Palestine join the global march to Gaza. We're looking forward to seeing you all in Cairo on the 12th of June. Thank you, comrades. We are counting on you.
Oh, my brothers, this hour went too fast. We got about 8 minutes left. But I want each one of you to comment on the importance of people power. Yeah, this was the global march to Gaza. I forgot what the exact details were, but they're mobilizing in Egypt, you know, to exert, no doubt, to exert pressure on those pitiful Arab and so-called Muslim countries in that region who have been silent, acquiescent to the genocide that's been taking place for almost 2 years now. So this mobilization, I can't wait to hear what the results were. But brothers, your thoughts. Let's begin with you, Imam Rios. Your final thought. You got 2 minutes, Saki, to just share whatever you want to share from your heart on the challenge facing America, the challenge facing Muslims, the challenges facing the global community. You know, if we want to push back on this demonic stuff that's going on, that is engulfing us all.
I don't want to take the whole 2 minutes, but Bismillah, you know, all what I think right now can be summarized in this point. We need to have clarity of vision, clarity of understanding what is happening. We cannot afford to be confused on that. Mm-hmm. And we need to recommit to the fact that being out on the street, as much as some of us may not like it, it works.
Yes.
And that's the beginning step to really organizing ourselves better, right? And I think that we need that energy right now. The world needs that energy, that pushback. And I want to leave it there. Yeah, you know.
Okay. Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much, brother. Amir Abdul Malik Ali, I'm very much aware of the fact that there was a mass demonstration yesterday in Southern California. The impression I have is that it was huge. Mm-hmm. And so what are your thoughts on this issue of people power and the need for us to exert pressure, you know, from wherever we possibly can, peacefully, of course, in a disciplined fashion, but without any unprincipled compromise?
The one thing that the enemy can't deal with is people power. They can't deal with people power. And I think when we talked about people power and leadership, and we talk about the caravan that our brother was talking about, one of the things that people power has to do is remove all these puppets from our countries. We will not be able to make any type of progress at all when we have these puppets running the show. And the only thing that's going to bring them out of power on the human level, of course, is people power. The same thing here. How many brothers do I talk to who talk to me who are so frustrated when they go to these kuppahs and they hear these watered down kuppahs as if nothing is happening out there, right? But the people have to say something. The people have to do something. And so one of the things that people power has to address itself to is not only building proper leadership, but also in many instances, we have to get rid of certain type of leadership. We have to get rid of them.
And let me. I need to correct myself. If I said Southern California, what I meant was actually Northern California.
San Francisco.
It was
San Francisco.
San Francisco. I also understand that there was a huge.
Brother Mohammed Bashir, if you don't take our opportunity on the time, we're going to end up losing out. It seems like Mari is out.
Brother Muhammad, let's hear from you. My goodness.
Oh, mashallah. I ditto to what the brother said. Organization is important. Organization is important. Kwame Ture said, organize, organize, organize.
Organize.
I think, unfortunately, we as a Muslim community are so fractured in our willingness to organize. It's like every sect, I'm going to call it sect, and I hope everybody feels insulted by my use of that word, so that maybe they see where the law says about that. But every sect wants to be the one that's the head Negro in charge or the head imam in charge. And another thing is, I've always said, is that you cannot understand America and its citizenship and its place in the world unless you understand African American history. And if you're not willing to accept African American history coming from African Americans, no sense in you stepping forward and being in the leadership. Now, as it relates to your videos, briefly, going back to my lane, the videos demonstrate to me one thing about people power. When you show up in a jury room, you have power. It may be on a small level, but you have power. You can either determine the guilt or the innocence of somebody, or you can recognize that there's some BS going on in the court and shut the jury down and deadlock a jury. And I don't care if it's a murderer or a terrorist or just a traffic ticket. It demonstrates that you have the power if you are dealing with consciousness. If your consciousness says that everybody is voting guilty on this particular person because he's black and that's the only reason, you have the ability to shut it down. Now expand that to what's bigger. You have the ability to shut down everything in the particular country when you recognize that someone is acting as a bigot, as a white supremacist, as anti-law, etc. And what these videos demonstrate to you is that the nature of due process in this particular country is the only thing that is separating you from the elimination of the 14th Amendment and you being treated the same way you were treated in 1856, where they said that a black man has no right that a white man is bound to respect. In the absence of your protest and your fight as it relates to that, and the gaining of the 14th Amendment and your willingness to fight to maintain that through your various civil rights actions, you'll be treated exactly the same as Dred Scott was. If we don't recognize that and we allow someone else to take the lead and they go in a different direction, you will be not just second-class citizens, you will be fourth-class citizens, and you'll be deported quickly to Libya because they won't be able to separate you from Cameroonians or from Nigerians who are on the deport list right now, ready to go as soon as they finish hiding behind the Latinos.
One final question. We're right at the 3 o'clock, at the top of the hour now. One final question. I'd like for each of you to just take 15 to maximum 30 seconds to respond. Do you think, given the fact that Trump is way up in age and his health is not good, given these facts, do you think, brothers, that Vice President Vance is a Trojan horse for the string masters operating from behind the scenes? What are your thoughts on that? Whoever wants to go first.
Okay, yes. Think about it, who his backer is. His backer is Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel's a South African. Peter Thiel is a proponent of apartheid. This whole thing of letting these apartheid people come into the United States without any of the strictures that are being placed on every other country, bringing these white supremacist thinking people into this country tells you exactly who Mr. Vance is.
Amir Abdelmalik.
Yes, but it's still not going to work.
Okay. Imam Yusuf, you got the final word.
You know, one thing we didn't bring up is the issue of the Democratic politicians that were shot. You know, and I believe one was killed.
Oh yeah,
that's serious business. The other thing is the discussion about shipping American prisoners to overseas jails in the context of all of this. I'm not talking about people that have citizenship problems or immigration problems. I'm talking about the general citizen that ends up being in jail or incarcerated with the having the potential now to be extradited. So I think there is a Trojan horse here. They're trying to bring in a new type of system, and it is about due process and rule of law. Now, if we don't stand for that, I think we're going to be in serious problems.
We're going to have to end on that note. I agree with you 100%. In fact, brothers, I by the grace and mercy of Allah Ta'ala, we put together the perfect panel for this very important discussion for today. I want to thank you for joining us, and we close out as we normally do on this note. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim wal Asr. Innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amalu salihati wa tawassaw bil haqq wa tawassaw bis sabr, which means, in the translation of the meaning, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, by the token of time, through the ages, surely humanity is in loss, except those who believe and do good, and exhort one another to truth, and exhort one another to patiently persevere. Peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum.